Hello everyone, this is International Master Robert Jamieson from Kids Unlimited in Melbourne, Australia. And today I have a very special video for you. We're going to look at mystery moves. Now, really strong players, grandmasters, world champions, very often I'm sure they come up with ideas that we would never think of. That's why they're strong players. And one of the ways we learn and improve our chess is to try and examine the grandmaster move that we haven't anticipated, work out why they did it, and hopefully we can learn from that. So I've got 5 fabulous positions to show you, and we'll start off with probably my favorite one. It's between a young Boris Spassky, aged 19 in 1956, playing Yuri Averbach, who was one of the top 10 players in the world at the time. He actually toured Australia in 1966, and I played him in the Simmel when I was a junior. And he went on to become the world's oldest grandmaster, only dying the other day, aged 100. Anyway, so here he is, one of the world's top 10 players, playing a young up-and-coming Boris Spassky. It's black to play. I'd like you to pause the video and decide what move you would play. Okay, you've decided? All right, let's discuss the position. Well, clearly white is going great. He has more space in the middle. He has pawn play on the king side. He's blocked down the queen side. Black can't play b5. And black has lost his good bishop, the white squared bishop controlling the white squares. So poor old black has a terrible game. So I imagine Spassky sitting there thinking, what can I do? What can I do? Now, most of us would just develop a piece somewhere, but Spassky understands the big picture, and he's trying to find some way for him to generate some play so he can put his opponent under pressure. And he plays the amazing move. Here we go. Knight c6. Would you like a free knight? Did anyone think of that? I think probably not. All right, so on the face of it, it looks stupid. It's just loss of 2 points, a knight for a pawn. But let's see what happens. So takes. All right, so this pawn's come towards the center, so it's controlling some important squares. He's opened the B file, so his rook now has play on the B file. His knight now has access to E6, and maybe jump into D4. And it's, well, very hard for white to do anything. The queen side sort of stymied, the centre's stymied. White can perhaps get play on the king side. So I'll show you a few more additional moves. Presumably Averbach probably should have played H6 to kill off the bishop when it effectively been 2 pieces up. But instead he attacks the G pawn. Spassky defends, swaps off, queen comes out, looks very aggressive. Spassky grabs the B file. Knight goes back to defend the B pawn, and now, of course, the knight comes in. Rook A3, threatening to swing across to the king side. He's got his knight in a good spot. Look, he's got an active rook and an active knight for all his trouble. And he's picked up a pawn. Lost a pawn on the king side. Will he get mated on the king side? Averbach's still a piece up, but here comes Spassky's pawns. And would you believe, Spassky almost ended up winning the game. But in the end, it was a draw. So, what an amazing move. Knight c6. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay. What inspired me actually to do this video was a game the other day of Magnus Carlsen's, where he's playing away and he played this crazy move that no one would ever think of. And everyone's saying, what's going on? What's going on? And then a couple of moves later, it dawns on you what his idea is, and it's really great. All right, so have a go here. Magnus playing white to play. It looks like he's got a pretty good position. What would you play here? Pause the video and work out your move. All right, have you decided? All right, I'm sure a lot of you would probably be tempted to play queen takes pawn, winning a pawn, but black can swap off and move his bishop, get his rook in, and he gets some play. All right, let's have a look at Magnus's move. He played Rook H1. Now, I don't know about you, but I was told that rooks belong on open files or half open files, or at least behind the pawn you're going to push. Now, he's not really pushing the H-pawn. So what is his rook doing over here? We don't know, but after one more move, it becomes clear. King here. What's Magnus's idea? He's got his rook on the G file. And he went on to win fairly comfortably after this. So let's go back to the starting position. All right, so how did he think of this? So the thought process would normally be, well, what's white trying to do? Black's all bottled up on the queen side, so he'd presumably like to keep black's pieces in there, but white has more space and more pieces on the king side. His pawns are pointing towards the king, so he should be attacking on the king side. He has a piece that's not helping. He would like to get the rook in the attack. Where would the rook like to go? It would like to go to the G file, of course, but it can't get there. So Magnus is thinking, how can I get it there? And the only way is the weird idea of rook in the corner, king back, and then rook can come to the G file. What an incredible idea. Well done, Magnus. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay. This time we have Reshevsky versus Petrosian. It's Petrosian's go as black. So have a think about it, pause the video, work out what you would play. All right, hope you've decided. Now, let's have a look at the position. So white has more space. He has those nice two pawns in the middle. He has the two bishops. But more importantly, he's sort of threatening something. If it was white's go, I reckon he's playing bishop f3, and then he's getting this pawn going. And then when he wants, he can undermine the queenside pawns perhaps as well, or just keep going with these center pawns. It looks fairly strong. So what's poor old Tigran to do? How's he going to stop this plan? How's he going to stop the center pawns from moving? Now, when my students don't know what to do, one of the things I suggest to them is find your worst placed piece and put it on a better square. So one thing to think about is look at all your pieces. Are they all where you want them? And let's have a look at this knight. It's not really doing too much. It's near the center, but there is a better square. Imagine if we could get our knight to this square. Not only are we threatening to win the exchange, but we're blocking those center points. Suddenly, we would almost be winning with our knight in the center there. So Petrosian came up with the amazing idea, would you like a free exchange? Rook e6. Now he's clearing the way for the knight, and he's prepared to give up the exchange for it. So let's have a look at what happened the next few moves. Reshevsky didn't take it. He went a4 first. Knight back, now he takes it. Queen back, knight up, look across, bishop here. And black is just dominating the white squares. Probably getting ready to threaten b4. He's almost winning. So Reshevsky gives back the exchange for a pawn. And he has no trouble drawing Petrosian because of his wonderful strong knight. And they agreed to a draw in this position. So interesting idea. So Petrosian is prepared to sack the exchange just to get his knight in a really good spot and get a good defensive position in an otherwise difficult position. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, now this one. This is Karpov versus Spassky. So 2 world champions. Materials equal. It's white to play. I think Spassky just played Rook F d8 was his last move. So have a think. What would you play as white? Pause the video and make up your mind. All right, you've decided. So most people like attacking and threatening and stuff. So they'd probably be looking at bishop c5, but the queen is going to come here. It's no big deal. Other than that, there's not much happening. All right, but similar to the Petrosian game, we can have a think about our pieces. So look at all white's pieces. Is one of them on a square that's not really helping too much and maybe could be better placed? Which piece do you think? So I'm thinking this knight on c3. I mean, it's controlling some center squares, but I can't go here or here or here or here. So what's it really doing? And I've got no pawn play. Meanwhile, black's knight here is a sort of bit of a pain. It's got my c2 pawn under pressure. So Karpov came up with the weird-looking move, knight b1. He's retreating. Not many players would think of retreating, but as soon as you see it, it's obvious. What does he want to do? Well, he wants to be able to kick the knight away, and if black plays rook takes rook, we're going to capture with the knight, and our knight's probably going to go to f3, which is going to be a better square and put black under pressure. So knight b1, and I think Karpov went on to win. All right, lucky last chance. Hope you've got a few of them so far. All right. This is one of my favorites and one of the most mysterious. So this is Karpov versus Korchnoi, one of their infamous World Championship games. Okay, Karpov is playing white. It's his turn to play. Materials equal, bishop for knight. So have a little think. What move would you play as white? Pause the video now. Okay, have you decided? Now, the problem here is there's not much to do. I mean, black has a solid enough position. White has a solid enough position. White has a pretty nice bishop. But I don't know what to do. All right. Now, I often advise my students, when you don't know what to do, just grab your A pawn or your H pawn and move it up 2 squares and bash the clock and pretend you're attacking. So if it were me, I think I'd be playing H4. And I haven't harmed my position. Maybe I want to play H5 and open up his king a bit. That's okay. But Karpov didn't do that. He did this move. Rook B E1. Now, I'm sitting there again, a bit like Magnus, this game, thinking, what the hell is this rook doing here? This is not an open file. This is not going to be an open file. I can't push this pawn because then my D pawn would be on pre, and I've blocked in my other rook. I don't understand this at all. All right. Korchnoi replied B5, going to play on the queen side. And Karpov went back again. Okay, it's a bit of a mystery, but let's think about it. I'm wondering if Karpov is saying pass. I have a nice position, but I don't want to instigate something because that might then give you play. If you want to try and beat me, you take a little risk, you do something, and then I'll respond to that. So Karpov just played a waiting move. Korchnoi's unbalanced the position a bit, And now Karpov can respond to that. He's got something to do. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up learning chess, I was always taught how important time was. I had to get my pieces out there quickly, or he would have his men out there quickly and he'd be checkmating me instead of me checkmating him. And I couldn't waste a move, or do something silly like A3 or H3, wasting time. But here we are, the world champion. He's just fiddling around, not fussed about time at all. So I thought to myself, well, maybe time isn't that important after all in some situations. If you've got a good position, just hang around it. And quite often in my games, most people think you've got to do something and you've got to attack. If I just sit around with a nice position and hang around, they'll unbalance the position and probably do an irrational attack, and I'll end up winning. So good strategy and good lesson from Anatoly Karpov. All right, I hope you enjoyed those 5 positions. I don't know whether you got any of the mystery moves. Perhaps you did. If so, well done. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.